Yes, thank you. It's 11 which is the strategic area of the investment plan 24 to 2029. And we quite some things.
Thank you, Convener. Good morning, Council. This paper provides members with an update of on the strategic housing investment plan for the Clackmannanshire for future years 2024 to 2029. The SHIP defines our priorities for investment and affordable housing development over the next 5 years. The paper provides, within Appendix 1, summary of the proposed 5-year programme of new housing supply and anticipated cost associated with it. Section 3 of the paper means that local authorities are required to prepare a SHIP annually and submit this to the Scottish Government. The Government then utilise this information to help inform their housing investment decisions. The paper describes in section 4.1 that generally there have been delays in Council's new build programme, and that is associated with associated underspending as a result of this. This is reflective of the position out with the county and across Scotland, with other local authorities having very similar challenges in progressing new build construction of affordable housing supply. The paper notes in section 4.2 that new housing supply via properties bought from the open market have been a success. This has allowed us to increase the number of properties within the existing housing stock at a time when new build has been slow to be realised. Section 4.2 also notes the creation of 60 new affordable homes within the Primrose Place development in our town centre, and this has been a real success story. It's recognition from the Chartered Institute of Housing at the recent Scottish Housing Awards. The development was voted as one of the best in category. The draw members' attention to section 6 of the paper, which describes 5 chalet accommodation units located within Pompey Road as nearing the end of their useful life and no longer fit for purpose. This paper recommends that members approve the relocation of tenants at Pompey Road at the site to be prepared for new high quality energy efficient housing development. If approved, the highest priority band 1 for the housing waiting list would be given to those tenants required to relocate to new homes. Section 6.5 of the paper outlines a commitment for officers to report back to Council on the type and number of homes able to build at the site. Section 7.1 of the paper details the Council's recent expenditure funding being available by the Scottish Government for new housing supply. Confirmation in section 7.2 that 2 registered social landlords in Clackmannanshire have been able to draw funding from the same source to add to their stock and the overall levels of affordable housing within Clackmannanshire. It is worth noting, however, that the Council has purchased more properties from the open market than both of these RSTLs combined. Appendix 1 attached to the paper provides fuller detail and background to the SHIP. Thank you. I'm happy to take any questions that members may have.
Okay, thanks, Sandy. Do you have any questions? Please quiet or I can explain.
It's Sandy. Sandy. Oh, we just know that. Maybe this is the first line. Andy, thank you very much. I'm going to phrase this as a question. Would it be possible to have a graph that showed the best and worst case scenarios for demand and the best and worst case scenarios for supply for that demand over time, to let us understand at a glance how far behind the mark we are, and whether we're getting near what the trend is? The trend to close the gap, or is the trend for the gap widening? That would be quite useful, quick graphic to see. And from my understanding of funding to 7.1, is there a link between the Council's efforts in buying off the shelf and the grant funding that we get? That's the implication I'm reading in that statement. Is that the case? It's something that you do here influencing the amount of grant we get.
Sorry, just start. Thanks for your question. It's not something that we do here that influences the amount of funding that is available for specifically for new supply for purchase properties. There's an allocated pot of funding that's available, it's made available within the local authority area, and there's certain partners are able to draw from that funding pot. So clearly there's a figure there allocate each year for new supply, whether that be purchase of properties from the market or new build. And we obviously endeavour to try to make much use of that available funding as possible. And as I mentioned there, you have a difficulty in the new build side of things. So the new supply via purchase from the market has been a really good avenue for us to explore to try and maximise the ability that we have to spend our funding that's available.
Right, thanks. I think I've read it the wrong way around, because it's just the way that it's stated there. I thought that your efforts were influencing the amount of grants out of the round. The amount of grant influences your efforts. Fine, understood. Thanks.
Oh, Councillor Clackman. Yeah, Councillor Bennett.
Slightly alarmed with Pompey Road and Socky in terms of, once demolition's been agreed that people will put on priority one to be rehoused. Is there an undertaking that they'll be rehoused before any demolition takes place? Or would there be any risk of them effectively becoming homeless?
Thanks, Councillor. That's a good question, one which obviously we would have to ensure that we're fully taking care of those tenants and residents before we create that potential scenario. So yeah, that would have to be factored in absolutely the timeline toward any demolition, that would obviously have that responsibility and duty toward ensuring that the care for people's side of things in terms of those tenants was looked after and considered and fully thought through before any demolition of the units on the site.
Thank you.
Councillor Bennett.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just a quick question about the gypsy travel accommodation. How far on that now? Because I try to pass that every day. Nothing seems to be happening. I'm sure there is, but it does look as if it.
Thanks, Councillor Bennett. Yeah, there are things happening. I would agree with you that are not entirely visible. Everything that's happened today so far has been below ground, so the substructure works have been progressing. So we're at a point now where we hope early in the new year we will have the progression for the foundations to be laid at one side, and then we'll start to build up and see the superstructure emerge, and something that's very visible. I'm sure we'll all be glad to see that, especially obviously the travellers who have been displaced by this works on this.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you, Councillor Martin.
Investigating regarding sales in the as no one who's saying homeless applicants. Will you tell us a little bit more about this?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Martin. Yeah, we obviously work very closely with our RSL partners to look at the housing needs across the county area, and where we have instances where obviously we've spoken before about the difficulties that we are experiencing ourselves, and an authority for housing and people that absolutely need it, either whether that's a waiting list or whether it's a homeless person. But we work very closely with our RSLs to look at what available accommodation they have. And we work jointly on that, so we may have accommodation that would be suitable for people that present to the RSL and vice versa. And the RSLs may have something that's more suitable for people that present to us. So we have a common housing registered with the link in with the RSLs. And it's really partnership working to try and best source properties for the needs of the individuals that come into the council and it's going into ISL. So it's really just joined up working to identify suitable properties where they're available for the people with the need.
So what you're saying is more joint work.
Yeah.
And page 195, mental health. I'm saying social work has been working previously on sorry. Next like page 195, mental health, housing and social work have been working closely to develop a good understanding that the inclined groups of health issues and living disabilities. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Is there that's something it's particular interesting?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. Yeah, that's probably similar opposed to the situation that's found there working in partnership with RSLs. Clearly, we want to make sure that we have a really good and close working relationship with the social work to understand the kind of issues which they are seeing and that we see ourselves with people that we engage with through various housing services. But I think it's understanding what support we can provide to people, because obviously giving or providing people with homes is one thing, but you have to look at the whole package around to make sure that we're setting people up to succeed as opposed to setting them up to fail. So it's really just that joint of working to make sure that we're fully understanding some of the common issues that people have. People feel mental health. Mental health and awareness is very much there as well, but that just on that understanding some of the issues that people do incur, as I say, it's not just putting them in a new house, it's having a whole wraparound support here available to them. So really it's a good job working and understanding the needs of the individual.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, Councillor Clyde?
Thanks. And the Paragon coming into play here, does that actually lever in more capital, or do they purely use their allocation of the budget of the grant? They don't have their own money, don't bring anything to the party. Right. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's good stuff. But yeah, it's purely about utilising funding that's available for use within the portfolio area. In some respects, yeah, absolutely. If we were able to utilise all the funding ourselves, we do underspend. Probably would not be able to in that ourselves. Have been able to add very small numbers to the stock. But the wider picture, it does add additional affordable housing supply to Clackmannanshire, albeit not directly for local authority.
Thank you, Councillor McCluskey.
Thanks, Speaker. With regards to the West Law site, from an environmental point of view, it's good to see that there's going to be electric car charging points installed. Can you confirm the capabilities and council decision that the use of that will be chargeable to the end user?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. Okay, yeah, that would be the case. Yeah, if they're set up in a manner that they can be utilised by visitors and public, then that would be the case. Yeah. So.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Alexander, can you give it?
Thanks, Convener. The paper outlines an ambitious strategic housing investment plan 2024 to 2029. The backdrop of massive price hikes and diminishing contractor availability has impeded our ability to spend the resource planning assumption funding made available to us by the Scottish Government. However, we're confident that the detail within the plan is achievable, and the SHIP will be reviewed on an annual basis, as already suggested by Emily. The plan presents a number of opportunities to increase housing stock across Clackmannanshire to continue to meet growing demand for affordable and good quality social housing. We recently acquired 40 of the shelf properties, which are currently being brought up to council standards prior to let. Of the shelf properties are advantageous in that they provide us with a quicker way to increase our stock, as well as usually being in good condition. So they're a valuable addition to our existing stock. We look from the report that we're working very closely with other social landlords, which will ensure that Clackmannanshire can access as much Scottish Government funding as possible to maximise the availability of social housing throughout the county. While all the projects mentioned in this report are meritorious, I'm especially delighted about the Pompey Road project. And just to reassure Councillor Rennie, we will get the people out before we demolish. So that will be a priority. These prefabricated homes are way beyond their useful life and have needed intervention for a long time. So now the current tenants will be offered other tenancies that will better meet their needs and will be more energy efficient and comfortable. As noted in the SHIP, everyone should have a safe area to live in, a well-maintained house and help when they need it. And we're striving to achieve that. We know that we need to increase our stock still further to meet the growing need, and that is our vision. Our housing need and demand assessment is currently being reviewed, and it's evident that it will show a greater demand than that established in 2018 when it was last reviewed. And just the point that Councillor Coyne made, housing needs and demand assessment should give that information, Dennis, because that is where it will show what our tenants need and what we actually have to offer them. So, we need to take account of that when the SHIP is reviewed next year, that the housing needs assessment is relevant to that. Our administration and our council officers will continue to move forward to improve social housing options for those who have a housing need in Clackmannanshire. I thank the officers for this report and I'm happy to propose the paper. Thanks, Convener.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace, second.
Just follow the second response.
Thank you for that. The paper's now open for debate. Any wish to debate further? Councillor Russell.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Kate and Andrew and the housing team for preparing the SHIP. There's a great deal of information that goes on into this. I think it does highlight the successful of our off-the-shelf purchasing. The main point I'd like to make, though, is in terms of when we're looking at the housing need. We can't get away from the facts within the paper that we need 100 new households at the bottom of each year. So that gives a kind of sense of the demand. But more importantly, in Clackmannanshire, we're projecting that there's going to be 126% increase in people aged over 75, which to my mind isn't just about what the need for maybe 1 and 2 bedrooms, but the type of housing that people need as they come to the autumn or twilight of their years. And the point that I'd like to make and emphasise is that the SHIP can't exist on its own. We need to, when we're preparing the new local development plan, make sure that this dovetails with the SHIP and that we include planning policies that put an onus on developers to provide the housing that we need. That, of course, will be mocked up from time to time. For instance, the recent approval of 1,000 houses under Stockley West. That would be a land bank, and that was a housing approval that we couldn't influence in terms of taking account of some of these trends, because perhaps we hadn't fully identified the proper housing need. So it's really important that we keep our housing need assessments, the SHIP and the local development plan up to date. And I would urge elected members that when we come to discuss the local development plan, that we properly look at these in terms of innovative planning policies to try and deliver what we require in terms of our future housing need. And maybe even attempt to try and reverse some of these trends that seem to be baked into the future of Clackmannanshire we're looking at. So that's the main point I want to make.
Thank you. Any others? Councillor Wright?
Yeah, just in view of the fact that we're seeing sort of across all areas of Scotland, and it's just on the case actually in the last couple of days about housing crisis in other local authority areas, it's really encouraging to see what we're doing in Clackmannanshire. But I was particularly encouraged looking at paragraph 9.3 on specialist housing for people who have additional needs, and to ensure that we're going to have wheelchair bundles realised in the area. I think that's hugely important to hear that all the time about accessibility. And I was really particularly encouraged to see that within the paper, but I think really delighted to see that we're looking at the specialist needs of people within Clackmannanshire as part of this paper.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. To move forward from what Councillor Lennon just said, yes, it's important that we build houses that are going to be used by people with special needs, with physical needs, whatever these needs may be. However, what we have seen in the past is that because we are increasing the footprint of the building, we're actually increasing the potential size liability. for, and a regrading for that property as well. So a property that is put in place for wheelchair use, because it has wider needs within that house, they can actually move up to a higher band in density, which will then create its own problems with affordability and the need to afford these things. I also like to say it's good to see something now down black and white about England Drive. How long have we looking at the last England Drive and waiting for something to be done? Now it's here from the ship before that's in mind. So I'm looking forward to the day the doors have come in and bringing it in. The housing going about, excellent houses. The flats, unfortunately, haven't met the need to live for. Good houses, but for some reason people just don't want to see them. But thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other contributions? Councillor McTaggart, do you need to take this on?
Thanks, Convener. Just from Councillor Evans' point, the main reason for the delay in the work of England Drive was because there's an electricity substation at Banket. And we can't just demolish an electricity substation, so there had to be negotiations which have delayed and delayed and delayed. And it's not for the want of trying to get this block dealt with. It has genuinely been problems that have been out of control. The only other point I'd make is that the housing needs and demand assessment should hopefully identify the types of properties that we're going to need to provide in the future. It may be that, as was mentioned by the provost, that we need to look at properties that are for an ageing population, but I'm also keen to see properties that are designed for people with hidden disabilities, learning disabilities, learning difficulties, etc., because we are sorely lacking in those currently. So hopefully the housing needs and demand assessment will help to work towards providing the properties that people, need in Clackmannanshire. Thanks, Convener.
Okay, thank you. We've been asked to approve the strategic housing investment plan for 2049, in summary of area housing sector detailed appendix 1. As to approve the relocation of tenants to home for those socket and the site for the housing video isn't relevant. And as to note the Paragon Housing Association intends to participate in off-the-shelf purchases from the open market. And further, for regular updates on the progress of the ship will be brought to the housing performance meetings on an ongoing basis from early 24. Happy to hear. Thank you. Item 12 is the police-based investment programme 2024.
This report updates members on activity around the Council's investment fund over the last year, and it seeks approval for a set of projects proposed for the current year, 2024. Work has been ongoing to support and implement those projects that were awarded funding last year. 3 out of 4 projects are complete or nearing completion, with one at design stage. Officers have been reaching out over the past year to the networks within the council, with its partners and with our communities, to produce a list of projects to be funded by this year's funding, which amounts to £310,000. A list of proposed projects which are considered to meet the fund's objectives and which are achievable within the required timescales are set out in Appendix 1. Members are asked to approve the allocation of the place-based investment funding for these projects, and also to authorise a flexible approach to delivering projects so that underspending one project can be allocated to overspending another, or to add value to the elements to another projects. Happy to take any questions.
Someone, do you have any questions? Councillor Martin?
There's a lot of good stuff in this paper. On page 203 regarding the contract, where people there's an update with the advertising month. And it's been going on for quite some time, maybe for some years now.
Yes, so progress was being made We had an allocation last year through the place-based investment fund. What happened was that cost came back at a lot higher than we had thought. So we were advised by Sport Scotland that it'll cost around about this amount. So then we bid for that amount through the place-based investment fund, and we found out it's going to be a bit more expensive. So we're asking for an additional allocation this year. Sport Scotland are giving us an additional amount. So we'll have a pot of funding, and we're going to have to go back out to the market and say, okay, what can you provide us with this amount of funding? So it might be slightly smaller scale than we had previously envisaged, but nevertheless there will be a project there.
That's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Quinn.
Yeah, just a really quick question about the funds. Now, contingency there. What happens if you don't use all? Is you use that for something else? Is it? Right.
Yes, so but if there are any overspends on some of the projects, we can use it for that, but otherwise it goes towards the play park fund, the council's play park.
Right.
Thank you. Councillor Bennett.
I'm very pleased to see that Glentown Mill is in this paper and there's something going to be happening to it. I'm a little confused there, but am I wrong? Page 202. I'm wrong, but. Okay, I'll try.
Any other questions? There's a question to move it.
Thank you, Convener. Happy to move the paper for the place-based investment funds. What was provided to the council by the Scottish Government and from Clackmannanshire, our allocation is £310,000 this year. I think, again, this highlights one of the challenges we have as a small local authority, because our allocation of these funds tend to be smaller than, say, Glasgow, who will probably get around about £5 million to invest in projects. So when we break it down, investing in lots of small projects sometimes dilutes in the impacts that we can have in our local area. The funding always comes with parameters which restricts the type of projects that we can fund. For example, they can only be capital projects, and that projects have to be completed within a specific timescale. I.e., this year money has to be allocated within this current timescale. And I think that provides challenges to our officers who we know are working under constraints of resources and time, and being able to kind of go out and identify suitable projects. I've certainly been reflecting on discussions with the auditors ahead of our best value audit, where they were saying to me, am I absolutely assured that every single penny that we're spending as a council is focused on our priorities? And I think, sometimes you struggle to say yes to that. I think we do need to be more strategically focused, and I do think that we need to reflect on some of these things moving forward, particularly when we know that there are priorities outlined in certain areas. That being said, I think the paper is good. I think given the circumstances that we're working in, the projects that have been recommended for approval are satisfactory to the council. I think, and also to the communities. I think I would particularly like to highlight one project myself, and that's the Resonate project at Carsbridge. The work that's been undergoing by Resonate and by Angela, who I think I saw here today, can be underestimated. It's been ongoing for many, many years, and for those of you who have been on the council, you'll know that the vision has evolved and changed, and I think has ended up in a really special place. And as a result of that, Resonate were recently fortunate enough to be granted funding from the Land Fund to buy the premises at Carsbridge. And I think as a result of that, they were also fortunate enough to get funding from the Sheer Prosperity Fund recently allocated to the council. And I think the allocation here from the place-based investment fund builds on what I really see as a critical mass in making sure that this project comes to life and actually happens. And I'd encourage anybody who's not had the opportunity to visit the campus to arrange with Angela, because I'm sure she'll be delighted to host you and just give a little bit more idea of the vision, which I'm hoping to see, actually, in a more tangible process and focus over the coming months. The paper lays out that there are contingencies in there for the projects. I think, as we've seen in the past, that project costs are rising and sometimes things pop up. So there's a 10% contingency put in there, and the paper lays out that any underspends could be allocated to our ongoing play park renewal programme, which I think is quite crucial because that provides some extra funding to help things come to life. The other projects I think laid out there do contribute to the master plan as laid out in the paper, but I do think that moving forward we do need to get a little more strategic about this and think about the other projects there, and I'm particularly looking at the Clackmannanshire master plan, which for me could make a huge impact to the whole of Clackmannanshire. So good paper, please propose it and look forward to seeing how the project progresses.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Watts, second.
I would just like to highlight that the council was successful in a grant application for 500,000 to the Bacon and Derrick Land Fund as part of the Scottish Government place-based investment fund for a renewable energy and food growing project. This is a really exciting project that we can use as a test project that, if successful, we could extend further. We've been working with the Fourth Environmental Link on the project, and they recently had a stall at the Friday Market in Alloa, highlighting the project to the public. So I wish the team well in this adventure, and I'm sure that we will love to sample some of the vegetables that they will be growing. I'd just like to add on from Councillor Fortune, that just seems right for us to give funding to resonate, and look forward to actually arranging a visit to meet up, see it for myself. Thanks.
Okay, people's open now for debate. Anyone wish to make comment? Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to echo and hopefully not repeat the leader of the council's comments in terms of delighted to see funding towards the Clackmannanshire Cultural Campus, and as the former chair of the Clackmannanshire Cycling Forum, and the amount of investment that we're putting into the cycle networks. I would just also add this paper highlights to me that it is important to have shovel-ready, what I call shovel-ready projects, and the one strategic project I do feel is perhaps not prioritised enough in our place-based investment is indeed Clackmannanshire Dam. It is one of our most visited beauty spots, and for a number of years now the quality of the footpath around the dam has been criticised, and I know there is friends of Clackmannanshire Dam who have been trying to raise funds for improvements. It seems to me that with the potential adjacent housing developments, etc., that are coming on there, that the Clackmannanshire Dam as a resource is something that we should cherish and indeed improve the facilities there. So it is highlighted in the report as one of our main strategic priorities, and I'm pleased to see that sooner we start investing in that. And what I mean by that is getting it to a state where the footpath, which to my view would involve simple construction, is shovel ready, so we can take advantage of any future funds that come along. So thanks for that, Chair.
Thank you. Any more contributions?
Yes, just to welcome the additional allocations come forward, and particularly projects in the one area in Mainstream as well. The area around developing the lighting for the cycle path will obviously link for the wellbeing hub as well as a critical route for the wellbeing hub. So that area being lit will be a an excellent addition to what is already a really well-used path. There's the additional funding for the other works around the active transport Main Street Arva, but also just to note that the funding repeat from the previous allocation to Tilbury for the resurfacing of the bowling green, that's now been complete, and I believe that will be officially opened this weekend. So it was just to reinforce that particular point and show the progress that's been made from the previous allocation to the development, and that makes a significant difference to the offer that Civic Centre can provide. So it's a really welcome that as well, and as Councillor Forster has already highlighted, well aware of the project that Resonating part of. You'll not have to visit that when you do a visit to be a wee bit of last one. So really keen to see how that project continues to develop. It's a cracking old building with a huge amount of history to it. So I know that's going to add a lot of value to local people as well. So just really support. And the last thing is I would probably add my way to the comments that have been made around Clackmannanshire Dam. It has to be a real priority for us going forward. As a jewel in our crown, and we really need to look at how we sharpen that up again and shine it right, because it is something that we really need to focus on in terms of development in that area. So thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just to basically repeat a bit what Councillor Lindsay said here regarding the investment fund. Tilbury developments of the install the multi-use stage area is now complete. And grounds right now hosting a Christmas service Saturday, and it will be the official opening of the AstroTurf for FEMA project that's long been spoken about until by the time go back to something like 2007. That was just for food control of the facility. It's great to see that it isn't finalised. The only thing that's still to be done is reinstalling the floodlights around the pitch. Speaking to Jeanette and the team at Tilbury Community Development, recently they tell me that they've been inundated already with requests to book it going forward, so it's going to be a really vital community asset within Tilbury, and it's great to see that it finally come to fruition, and it's been a really worthwhile investment.
Thank you. Any other contributions, Councillor?
Yeah, just to say that the two, not particularly what, the multi-use media, the Hawkhill Community Centre, that's certainly been used and can be used well. The other one, the music in Winky Park, although if it hasn't started already started, it will be well used. You know, the people involved in that project, and I'm sure that it will get a lot of use. So it's good to see that small projects. Just a problem for we are a small area, so we have to accept a smaller amount of money. The amount of money they spend doesn't actually equate to the enjoyment that people get from the premises. So thank you.
Okay, so the last thing what's been undertaken together is the velocity of waste-based capital projects that achieve over the timescales that were asked to approve. The allocation of the waste-based investment fund 2023-24 set projects taken from the list set at Appendix 1, and the authorisation of a flexible approach to deliver the projects in favour so that underspends in one project can allocate the more spends and the value on the other projects. Happy to do. Item 13 on the agenda is the review of fault concrete and using
Thank you, Convener. Good afternoon, Council. This paper provides a summary overview of the Council's response to the discovery of reinforced autoclaved aerated concrete rack in the Council's domestic housing stock and a response to aid managing this. Clearly, it's been an extremely challenging situation for everyone involved. It's been most difficult, of course, for those residents who were evacuated from their homes. We absolutely appreciate and understand the upset and uncertainty that this ongoing situation is causing. I can please assure members that council officers across a number of teams are working as hard as they can to provide the necessary support required to the people affected. We've worked in a position where we now have certain lines of communication in place so that everyone is kept up to date with progress in managing the RAC issue. Communication is absolutely key, as well as phone calls, emails, text messages. We have held in-person meetings with all tenants and private owners whose properties were evacuated. We haven't been perfect, but this was a very difficult situation for all involved. With very little time to respond to the situation officers before well given the challenging circumstances. The decision to progress to evacuate residential buildings was not one which was taken lightly. However, based on the information available, primary concern toward the health and safety of residents was obviously priority. We draw members' attention to section 3 of the paper, which outlines the legal basis for the evaluation of residents in 3 mixed tenure blocks of flat properties. Section 4 of the paper, which describes a commitment to care for people immediately at the time of evacuation actions and the ongoing support provided thereafter. Section 5 of the paper provides a detailed overview of the RAC survey programme within the domestic housing stock and the findings of those surveys to date. Section 8 of the paper outlines expenditure and loss of income incurred to date. This was at the point of writing the paper. Summary of the paper is very much an overview update for management to RAC today. We do await receipt of a number of structural engineers survey reports commissioned. As soon as we have these, officers will begin to work immediately to review and assess the content of those reports. We'll seek to bring those bring forward paper to council with recommendations and suitable follow through. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions and members may have.
Okay, thanks, Andy. Any questions, Councillor McTaggart?
Thanks, Convener, and thanks, Andy. And while I've been heavily involved in this whole process and briefed accordingly, I know that no everybody here has been. So if you would indulge me with a number of questions, Andy, so that we can just get that information out there. So today, what has been done to support the tenants and owners during this process?
Thanks, Councillor McTaggart. I think, yeah, absolutely. I think I mentioned that communication is key. I think although we had perhaps sticky start in terms of some of the communication channels and lines, I think we're in a position to sort of lines of communication in place and we're able to provide updates on a regular basis where they're available to all residents and that's council tenants and private owners. We've been able to signpost tenants and owners to various third sector support organisations and able to provide it ourselves. We've been able to send posts internally in other areas of the council service that can provide support and really just making sure that we're available and able to assist in any way we can.
Thanks, Andy. Can you tell me what's happened around people's possessions and if there any further problems have been able to retrieve those?
Absolutely, thanks. It's quite an extensive piece of work undertaken immediately on the back of the evacuation procedure in each block. Quite an extensive piece of work undertaken to progress to recover as many and as much tenant and private owner resident belongings as we possibly could. That was undertaken with the involvement and help from our professional storage and removal contractor. We were based in the Bentley Centre at the time, and each resident was able to come into the Bentley Centre and spend time with officers and set up a live FaceTime link, although residents weren't able to re-enter the property to assist them retrieve all the logs. So they were able to set up a live FaceTime link so the residents could see what was going on in the property. We'd also recorded that process at the time as well. So appreciate that that's it's the best of that situation that everyone obviously would if they could remove everything from the property, certainly would be the preference, but we can manage to recover as much as we possibly been able to every day. And as I say, with the residents have been significantly involved in that process to assist us in doing that. And very helpful, I must say, in terms of being able to identify what we would like to be able to retrieve from the property. And we've undertaken that piece of work.
Thanks, Andy. Are we confident that we've done everything possible to lessen the impact of this situation? And where are the tenants and owners now? What position are we at with their housing tenure at the moment?
Thanks, Councillor. Yeah, I mean, I think, as I mentioned, it's obviously been a very difficult, challenging situation for everyone involved in, as I say, most of all for the residents, the students. I think we're trying to make sure that we're doing absolutely everything we can to get help and assist in any way possible. Clearly, the recovery of belongings we want to think about the right of elimination. Certainly, well, absolutely primary concern and issue. So, yeah, with council tenants, we have found alternative accommodation within the council housing stock. It's temporary accommodation that they have been relocated on the process of being relocated to. In terms of private owners, we have engaged with private owners from the outset and I've asked with those private owners to explore what potential options that they had themselves in terms of whether our friends and family, whether there are alternatives that they had. In a situation where that's not been the case, then some private owners have elected to go along the route of presenting to the service as homeless, and that's then those individuals or those persons have been progressed and we've engaged with those individuals to the process and providing temporary accommodation through that.
Thanks again, Andy. Is there any sign of a conclusion? I know that we need this report, but is there, do we have plans in place for when this report comes in? What would be the next steps? Thanks.
Yeah, that's all right, Councillor. The reports are absolutely correct and key areas to really move forward from where we are at the moment. And we have certainly been pressing hard as possible with the structural engineer who has undertaken the work to obtain the reports. I know that Lee has been on that case as well, in terms of really setting out just how important it is we obtain these reports as quickly as we can possibly get them. And I would accept that the time that's passed, it's taken for us to get these reports is certainly far longer than anyone would like. But yeah, that is critical to allow us to move forward. As soon as we're able to consider those reports, the content of those reports, and have a look at what's out there, then officers will work as quickly as possible to develop a paper which we can bring to council to consider what forward options look like.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Camille.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Collins, you know, Councillor Ward.
Thanks, Camille. Am I right in my assumption that rebuild and repair work for RAC problems is currently not covered by buildings insurance?
Yes, it's not. It's plastered wear and tear and to the property, and it's not covered for those who needed to be going back into further that.
It was one of the first things I did as soon as we found out what the issue was, and I contacted our insurers, and that is not an insurable risk.
As a run to that, are we in a position to assess, as the too early to assess the impact on A, council, and B, individual owners? Sure, some of them will be very materially affected by this. And do we have any, do we feel any moral responsibility to them in any kind of way if we sold them property that was flawed?
Thanks, Councillor Point. I think in terms of your first point, the surveys are key. We absolutely need to take receipt of surveys, assess what's in there, and then look at the technical and financial viability with the options moving forward. So it's too early for us to really assess really what the forward plan actually looks like at this moment in time. So we really need the surveys to be able to take forward there. In terms of the second point, of course, we're absolutely empathetic to the situation that residents find themselves in, sympathetic and empathetic to that, absolutely. RAC being present in the blocks that we found RAC, it wasn't something that we were aware of, and it wasn't something that we could have been aware of at the time when those transactions took place. So it's something that's keep us as well, if you like, in terms of, there's no awareness there.
Say that again.
There was no repeat of any awareness there at the time.
Here's the one.
You mentioned the surveys, so as you know, I've been contacted by a number of residents, because especially in regards to the block in Chappelle, where there has been a survey, and obviously we're waiting for the second survey, so like the residents have that, so why are you not acting on the information from the first survey? So I just wondered if you're kind of able to kind of expand on that, please.
Yeah, thanks, Christopher. Well, yeah, you're right. We have a survey for the initial block, and there's some further points of clarity we're seeking in terms of that survey. But also, we're engaged to structural engineers that are very much in high demand. Talks to structural engineers with the issues dealing with exclusive to Clackmannanshire. So, and I tend to try and move things on as quickly as we could to engage the secondary structural engineer. Clearly, we have gone to the point where we hope to be in those reports here. But the idea would be that whilst to keep uniformity in the suite of the surveys that we have, we would have the second structural engineer look at that block of the Chappelle survey to, as I say, keep uniformity in the suite surveys and no harm being the same time.
And I take it residents also, like private owners, they are able to get their own survey if they wish as well, just like before this happened, that if there was kind of any repairs that they wanted done, they could also go into kind of tender basically, and then put that to the owners, including the council, for any repairs that they perceive that they need to be done in the building. Is that correct?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Because a lot of that is the case in both cases. So, owners are able to commission their own structural engineer to provide a survey. But the council have offered the survey that we have commissioned to be made available to owners at no cost, and they can then rely on that as a document which is in their name as much as it's in our name. Your second point there regards repairs and maintenance, the blocks, you're absolutely correct. Yes, there's a mechanism and routes available to anyone to go along where they wish to bring forward proposal of the repairs and maintenance blocks and a formula is set. So yeah, you're quite right.
Do we have any more plans or mechanisms to allow more possessions to be taken from the affected blocks as well?
There's no plans in place currently, however, it's something that we could look at. I would say, however, that obviously there's been quite an extensive piece of work undertaken to remove and achieve as much as we possibly can. The building is still a dangerous building at present. It's dangerous buildings notice in place with the building. So any thought toward revisiting further retrieval belongings would have to really satisfy quite stringent health and safety provisions in place. And that would be something that we'd have to really consider in terms of the dangerous nature of that building versus the benefit of the belongings that are in the property. But no plans in place at the moment.
So my understanding is that because obviously the buildings are still there, that people's home insurance act kind of allowing them to be able to kind of claim off that. So, and also we put people are into kind of new accommodation. Are we doing anything to kind of help them kind of get that kind of furniture like beds and whatnot? Are we got anything in place for that?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. Yeah, we've been in dialogue with individuals and families and really a case by case basis. So their specific setup, if you like, in terms of where they are, what needs are. So where there's been potential for us to assist and provide additional support through sort of the individual explaining the furniture, whatever it may be, then we've certainly looked to do that. But yeah, provide information to residents, assist them choose figures and something again that we've been able to do as well. As I mentioned, we did document the report the removals and recovery people on strong properties, so we do have information which we've been able to provide to reference with the engagement and dialogue with insurance providers.
Thank you. Others, Councillor Coyne? Councillor Wilson?
Just want to follow on the last point being made about tenants repossessing their bits and bobs. What's the legal position here? Because mountaineering is a difficult and dangerous sport. People are allowed to go up mountains and walk and fall off. Entering a building is potentially dangerous, but less so. If someone is in full possession of all the facts and all the risks, why are they not allowed to enter the building and recover the property? That may not be a question for you, Matthew, I'm clear about that. I might have done my best to understand.
We've evacuated the building, it's a dangerous building. At the end of the day, we couldn't stop residents going back in to the properties if they wanted to take residents back up. But under the legislation, we can go to court and we can get a DP that would then provide us to evict the individuals. It's not something we've ever wanted to do. In terms of the going back in again to these buildings, I do question why any individual, when we've declared the building completely unsafe. This was not done lightly. It was done through emergency powers that we've got. And I suppose, as I said, legally, could we stop them going in? Probably not at this time, but we would go to court to stop them going in.
Why would you do that?
It's the council's priorities for preserving life, and we would want to preserve life. And the legislation allows us to do that.
Council is not responsible for the lives of individuals directly. It does not have that responsibility on itself. It's the individual's own responsibility. You don't need, the council doesn't have that piece, the council does not need to adopt that kind of godlike stance in other people's lives, I feel.
Notice.
City menu was not question. Councillor Wilson?
Sorry, just a quick question. You talk about the other buildings within the portfolio that lack is present, and you want to say don't pose immediate concern. They will be managed and monitored. What's that monitoring look like? So is that annually, biannually? Is that what
Thanks, Councillor. I've had the question. It's one which we are engaged with the structural engineers to obtain a school for that. We've been in dialogue with other local authorities in some position. That's one of the questions that came up. As what exactly does that look like? So we're working towards planning on that with structural engineers. We're at the point at the moment where there's further survey works to be undertaken and those blocks. And I think once we've concluded that first survey work, we'll be in a better position to detail and describe what our margin or our ratio looks like. Feels like one of the first things we would have to do would be to confirm that the decorated roof plan at the top side, so that we've got a weatherproof envelope there. That's one of the first things that we'd absolutely be doing, and then it's looking at what we're doing from that time. But we'll come back with further on that as soon as we have it.
I guess you probably be a similar sort of follow up to that in this. So if we get this through, monitoring says it's actually safe, we've got a plan in place to do something about it, or we've got a plan in place to about it. How is there processes where we can actually make that safe now, so that in years to come it doesn't get to the situation where it's dangerous?
Thanks, Councillor. Yeah, I think again, sorry, I'm repeating myself a bit here, but I think again, we really need information to structure something that's to inform what that might moving forward. So yeah, we've got back management order in situ, then it's a case of understanding what do we need to do to best sustain it, the condition that's in at the moment, to protect the asset for long to protect it, and moving forward to make sure it's safe. And that's a good condition and continues to be that way. So we really need to steer from structural engineers, but I think if there was any scenario in the future where there was deterioration in RAC, then we would certainly be better placed now, having been through this situation, this process, to put the action, the process in place to deal with it.
Okay, Councillor McCarthy.
So I said, apologies if this is kind of similar to what Councillor Coyne said in the wrong, but would it, for argument's sake, if a plan was to be put in place and repairs were to be carried out and the council funded this, would the council then look to recover a percentage of that for owner occupiers, or was it too soon for your own this?
Thanks, Councillor. I think feel like the three blocks that described as being evacuated are mixed tenure, all the mixed tenure. So there would have to be dialogue and discussion with private owners to look at and assess the cost implications of any proposed actions that we were to take forward. And at that point, we would look to discuss and determine how we best move forward in terms of responsibilities and pay whose level for what. Clearly, private owners have liability to meeting costs of repairs and works to their property, the same as the council do. So that's something again that we have to take forward in discussion when we have that information for policy.
Okay, Councillor Dawson.
Yeah, thanks. Andy, I think for a while Clackmannanshire was an outlier in having declared RAC in some of the council housing stock, but I saw a press release earlier, I think it was earlier this week or maybe last week, from Scots Federation of Housing Associations, and more than half of councils have now reported RAC in housing stock. So this is obviously kind of going to ramp up a little bit. We have obviously accrued funding up to funding costs up to now, which are going to have to be met by the council. I understand that the UK government has said that funding must be met within existing budgets, which has meant the Scottish government is saying, kind of the same thing really. What progress has been made on discussions with the governments, I suppose both governments, in relation to, kind of the funding implications for the council? And I suppose are we keeping a close eye on this and keeping in touch with the Scottish Government primarily to see what funding could potentially become available?
Thanks, Councillor Dawson. Yeah, absolutely. It's quite right that there are a number of other authorities that have confirmed that they do have that within their stock. And it's something that we've been involved in discussions with other authorities, the Scottish Government, Scottish Housing Regulator, COSLA, and you're right in saying that the cost of this at the moment are being met, we're meeting the cost of this at the moment, and the Scottish Government at this point in time, there's been no indication that there will be any funding made available for the management of RAC. However, that said, what we say that the situation will change moving forward, as you pointed out, if others in a similar position. So it's really a wait and see, and we have to keep a very, very close eye on it to see how that situation develops.
Thanks, Gina. Thanks, Lindsay. Just a quick question. Has there been any further requests to access possessions from the properties?
Thanks, Councillor. Yes, I think I've been aware of all requests, but I think there have been a small number of the plan to the potential for further freehold belongs.
Any further questions, Councillor Bailey?
Yeah, just a quick one. I know that there's no insurance for the building, but is there still insurance for the stuff that's actually in the building? And has the buildings that have got a problem, are they wind and watertight just now?
Thanks, Councillor Bailey. Contents insurance is really up to the individual. It's not something that the council wants. So council tenants would require content insurance, private owners and likewise. In terms of with the watertight, there's one block which we know there's been water ingress through the flood, but that's been the case. That's not something new that's happened since the block was evacuated. It's something that's picked up at the survey.
Thank you, Councillor Silver.
Yeah, The next members a briefing on this, and we requested a standard questions and answers. Responses that been prepared yet? And if not, why?
Thanks, Councillor Bosley. Yes, it has been prepared. I'm not sure that it's quite out there on the website as yet, but it's something that's very close to be available on the council webpage regarding that and freedom to ask questions, which will hopefully help to provide information to people require.
What's your estimated timescale? Awesome.
I honestly don't know exactly the timescale, but I would be very hopeful we could have something by the end of this week, but certainly next week, if not achievable by the end of this week, certainly next week we will have something in place. It's pretty much there.
And so the structural engineers, the options they're looking at, they've been given a clear brief, have they, for mitigation measures in terms of restoring those blocks that have been evacuated.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. The brief obviously initially established the presence and condition of that, and then further to that will be recommendation of the remedial action required to remove the danger, the best advice and options available for take forward remedial actions from them. So any solution, as I said, we'd have to look at the feasibility of the feasibility for the actions are. But yeah, the brief is to advise the options available for take forward.
And finally, we've established that we've had further requests for access for possessions. So is the council willing to entertain that? And what sort of criteria you think would be applied?
Thanks, Councillor. We'll probably probably go over what we said previously. As a dangerous burn, clear list at the moment. The retrieval of belongings that were looking previously at a point in time when the buildings were newly evacuated. Clearly, if we were going to revisit to retrieve further, we would have to look at quite stringent or have to be account of sort of stringently of the safety and provision that we put in place and assessment done, especially with problems as they are at the moment. As we've said, there are dangerous problems as a risk of potential collapse of the new structure, so we would have to be satisfied in the first instance that it was possible to re-end those problems. So those things we talked about before we could consider feasibility going back in to revisit.
Okay, thanks, Councillor.
Sorry, so just as this progresses and obviously we get the survey, should, obviously I think our next meeting's in February, should it be required, we do have the powers that we could have a special council meeting if that was needed. Do you agree?
I would say that we also try to bring forward two members as quickly as possible can, and we have to look at the timeline for that and fit schedule to see where what the possible potential is. But yeah, we would look at bringing people forward as quickly as possible can. As soon as
Thanks.
Okay, but sorry, Councillor Brendan.
One last question, if you don't mind. Are we looking at other houses or properties across the Clackmannanshire that could possibly have that same problem if it's the same sort of timescale that they've been built?
Thanks, Councillor Bain. Yeah, the survey programme today is concentrating on flagging properties, so there'll be 445 properties designated through the survey programme, and that piece of work is completed out at the moment. There's extensive desktop analysis ongoing to look at other potential properties that the suggestion of outline. So properties that may fall under that time frame or construction type that could potentially get back. We haven't had anything flag up to us as yet. Interrogating asset management database and information in there. But yeah, that's something that we're exploring.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to the brothers. Thanks, Annie. the people, what well was given a number of places again. Given this evidence, something under discussion, things that might have happened to people. Here's the titles of the people.
Thanks, convener, and thanks, Sandy, for taking that question and answer session. Before I propose the paper, I would just like to speak about the things that were mentioned regarding the possessions. I think the council is in a no-win situation here because the building is deemed as dangerous. If the council were to step back and say, right, we've decided you're going in here to get your washing machine out or whatever, and half a dozen people feel like it's like this, to get the washing machine out, the roof falls on top of them, it's the council's fault, regardless of whether the council advised them not to do it in the first place. So I think we'd be in a no-win situation regardless of what we did, and I think the actions that have been taken by legal, by the housing officers are absolutely right. It's important to make people understand that this dangerous buildings notice is there for a reason, and until these reports come in to tell us otherwise, that's how it should be handled. So that is my feeling. I know you were thinking there again as well, people have put they can make up their own minds sort of thing. But then, how would you feel if you stood back and let them go in there and somebody was to really back them up? So I just thought, point my opinion. The situation we're in has been terrible for everybody concerned, and I know I speak for this entire council when I say that we're sorry that people's lives have been disrupted in this way. I attended meetings with some of the people affected, and it was heartbreaking, actually heartbreaking to hear the stories. People were in tears, people were distraught. But I want to reassure all those concerned that the relevant officers are doing everything possible to reduce this burden. This matter is unprecedented within this council. Never before have we had a situation like this, and our officers acted in the best interests of those affected, and they will continue to do so. It's extremely unfortunate that we've yet to receive the full report from the structural engineers. But until we get that report and properly scrutinise it, we're unable to move on anything. We need the recommendations in the report to allow us to make a judgment on how we move forward. You'll note from the report that the council has already incurred a sizable unbudgeted spend, and this is going to change. So it's in everyone's interest to conclude this affair as quickly as possible. It's impossible to put ourselves in the position of those who are affected. And I truly hope that we can reach a conclusion with as little delay as possible. All councillors are available to support those affected, and our contact details are available on the Clacks web. Should anybody feel that they need that additional support, I'm sure everybody will be happy to respond to that. Thanks, convener.
Thank you, councillor.
Thanks. As a ward councillor, it's been there in my mind since, it happened, and I feel like empathize with the people that have been affected. And I just wanted to let them know that, even though we sat here with obviously the housing officers these questions, this isn't the first time that we've asked these questions. We've been asking them to put out, and I thank the officers as well, been phoning them or got to their desks or emailed them. So I really thank them for the work that they've been doing, and just to reassure the residents that we are asking all these questions, because I know that we do get lots of emails and phone calls in regards to it. So thanks.
Okay, thank you. People's now other debates in the debate for them.
Yeah, I think this is a very distressing situation. It's distressing for the homeowners, the tenants, and the staff who are having to deal with these situations. The issue for me on the possession thing, I find it perplexed. I have to say, I think there's a danger as a council we wrap ourselves in regulation and legality and not take a common sense approach. We can't be the first council, and indeed in my own career, I've dealt with housing action areas, the Glasgow Eastern area renewal, where there was building restrictions, but with an appropriate risk assessment, you could go in and recover the possessions and a great deal of those possessions. So I think I have to think that it's got to be an option for us. And Andrew did touch upon that slightly, but I think we need to make more efforts on that side of things. And obviously, we're waiting for the surveys, and I'm hoping that there's an appropriate delegation to officers that they can act speedily to address some of these issues. And indeed, if it does need further council approval on anything, that I think our next council meeting, full council meetings programmed in February, so I think it would be appropriate to have another special council meeting if there was any new information that came up that required quick and rapid action. I would hope that housing officers and the management would be empowered to take those decisions. And it's leaving it at that. I think we're all waiting for these reports, and I do hope that it contains the information that we require to provide evidence that allow us to take appropriate allow that our housing officers to take the decisions they take forward.
Thank you. Any others? Yes, for time, do you need something else? Okay, so you're going to do the position of the value of homes. Within the programme itself has been carried out in council aspects, the careful people response, the reporting of evidence, and the principal answer to the intervention to be as a result of the management of the bank. Council, we note to the Thank you. Up to one, so we're looking at the lunch, so I'll have that last one.